Imagine if we were all mute, and the only way you could exercise your First Amendment rights was with a picket sign. If the government wanted to infringe upon your First Amendment rights, they could make it prohibitively difficult to access that picket. They could make sure the stores to buy those pickets were really far from you. They could add excessive tax to those pickets to make it much more expensive for you to exercise that right. They could limit how many markers were available to you to write on those pickets. Lucky for us, we don't need picket signs to exercise our First Amendment rights, isn't it? Unfortunately, this is not the case with the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is uniquely vulnerable to marketplace politics. Therefore, we can't only defend it in the halls of government. We must also defend it in the market. Let me be clear. I'm not saying the Second Amendment is the only constitutionally protected right that can involve a material good. I am saying the Second Amendment is unique because access to a material good is necessary for someone to enact it. Without access to arms and ammunition, one cannot keep and bear arms. This makes the Second Amendment really susceptible to market restrictions and marketplace politics. As I see it, these marketplace threats to the Second Amendment tend to manifest in two ways. First, the market itself is heavily regulated. The rules governing the sale and transfer of firearms are vast. Additionally, manufacturers and producers of ammunition and firearms pay an 11% excise tax that gets wrapped into the cost that is passed on to the end consumer. These market restrictions are primarily imposed by the government. They drive up the cost of exercising your constitutionally protected Second Amendment right. Not just the financial cost, but what I call the convenience cost. The harder it is to do something, the more hoops someone has to jump through, the less likely they are to do it. In addition to government-imposed market restrictions, marketplace politics also pose a threat to the Second Amendment. Gun control advocates essentially can lobby the market to further their agenda. We've seen this with things like pressuring Facebook to limit firearm posts, which limits the ability of firearms and firearms-related companies to advertise their product in the largest social media network in the world. They also put pressure on financial institutions and credit card companies to not do business with the firearms industry. Several of our major online marketplaces now have extensive lists of restricted products that include firearms and any accessory having to do with specific firearms, like AR-15s, and most accessories that they deem tactical. When they prohibit these items, it further reiterates the perception that firearms are not mainstream, that those of us who would own them are somehow on the fringes of society. The material good that is necessary for us to enact one of our constitutional rights should never seem like the purview of a fringe element. All of our constitutional rights are important. They are all worth protecting. The Second Amendment is distinctive in that we absolutely cannot exercise it without a physical item, a firearm. As Second Amendment advocates, we must protect our access to that item and defend against market forces that would like to see us disarmed.